What is up, YouTube Steam blockchain? So today I want to talk a little bit about my Sorare ETH football card strategy. So if you don't know what Sorare.com is, or Sorare, depends on how you want to pronounce it. If you don't know what Sorare.com is, it's basically an ETH football card with 100% licensed card from European football clubs. So they have Serie A cards, they have Bundesliga cards, they will have Premier League cards. Basically, I think they will have the top 5 clubs in Europe. And you can use these cards to play in their SO5 fantasy football game, where you pick 5 cards for each week in different divisions, and you compete with it to try to win more cards. And basically, the cards connect to the player, how the player performs in real games, in the real world, and then your card gains experience, and there's a higher chance that you may win cards in the future if you perform well. So this is like, I love this. This is just amazing. I think this is one of the best Ethereum projects at the moment. It's just good, and like kind of like connecting the physical world with the real market, European football, and doing it with fantasy football. Scorum, for example, they said they were gonna do this, but it never really happened. And the challenge was always in this industry that, well, their probably is not licensed cards. It's probably not licensed. They probably have not gotten the clubs on board, and that it's new technology. It's kind of hard to get good deals. But here we actually have like a license card, like it's real. It's like if you go to, for example, Napoli's website, their official website, and you see official sponsors or like official licenses, you can see Sorare down there with EA. Like, that's so cool, man. Just that fact, like I'm not sure how they pulled it off. I'm not even sure how they pulled it off to get all these like clubs involved, but they kind of did it. So it's like my Ethereum, my football card strategy here is I want to be a hodler. Like, I want to really hold these cards. So what I'm doing is, I love the concept of like first trying to find some good players. Like, I want to focus on a few teams and just like gather like so many cards in those teams. And it's very interesting because it's like I'm not in a rush to sell any card, but if I can sell it for like 10 or 20x more, then like, why not? So they're using Loom network to use it as a bidding. So for example, they have a transfer market where you can see when new cards come up, and the players also, when they own cards, they can sell it on the transfer market, and it's up for maybe two days, I think. And it's so smooth, like buying and selling cards, there is no fee, and it just works amazing. Like, they even have support for prevent sniping the last minute. And just because it works so well, it's kind of fun to use it. Like most buying and selling systems, especially with crypto, it's just horrible. Like, they suck. For example, OpenSea kind of sucks. Like, you have to pay a fee every time you do something. It's not smart. Like, it's stupid. Nobody wants to pay a fee every time they're doing something. But just because you don't have to pay a fee here, it's so fun to like get a player kind of fast, and then maybe like try to sell it again. So my strategy is basically like get focus on some teams, and also like if I get a player, like I'm trying to get players that are like long term. So I try to look at for fresh fish, people below 25 years of age, and I try to look at people that has contracts to 2023 or 2024. That means I can use these cards for many years in the future, and because you can use these cards in future seasons. You don't have to have the current season cards. So I try to find young players, fresh fish, people with potential, and that kind of is like maybe not doing something super exciting now, but that may actually do something cool in a couple of years. And I also do this strategy of, if I get a player, I try to get more cards from that player eventually, especially if I like it for some reason. So it's kind of cool just because it's in the current season, it's 111 cards for each player. That means if you own like 3 cards of a player, it's almost as you own 3% of that player for the current season. That's a lot. Like, that is a pretty big share you have in a player. So if I buy maybe an expensive card, I can basically use dollar cost average it super quick if a new card comes on sale for cheaper, you know? So that's something that's very, very cool. Of course, we know about scarcity in crypto, but usually something is not as scarce as this. Like, this is like hyper scarce with just 111 cards for current seasons for one player. That makes it a little bit more engaging and fun, I think, because if it would be like maybe 1,000 cards or 10,000 cards for current season, maybe the market would not be as interesting. But now it's kind of interesting, right? Because you can own like 3% or 5%, maybe even up to 10% of a player. That is pretty interesting, right? That is super, super interesting. That means like if you really want a player, there may not even be a card out for sale. And that's kind of cool. So it's like you feel very, it feels very exotic to own a player. And if you want to make it a little bit more exotic, you just wait until you can grab a couple of more cards from that player. Because it's like 3%, own 3% of a player in current season. Almost like that's just amazing. I love that kind of scarcity. I think that's real scarcity, to be honest, because it's like you have all these other things like Ethereum and Bitcoin, but like people say it's scarce. But then it's like, okay, but you have 80 million coins. That's a lot of coins, man. That's a lot of coins. And each coin is like $5,500. Like, I'm not really sure. Maybe I'm manipulating the market. But here, I mean, can you really like? There's so few cards that it's pretty obvious that it's very scarce. I mean, just owning one card of a player, like 1% own of that player, it's just crazy. It's not exactly 1%, but it's very, very close. So my strategy is to buy a lot of fresh fish, and if I buy a couple of cards from one player, I try to put most of those other cards, like the duplicate, for sale for a lot higher. It's because I'm not in a rush to sell, but it's like if someone want to buy it for a way higher, then it's like that's a pretty good deal, you know. That's a pretty nice deal. I try to look for players that I played the last couple of games, so they have a fairly high score, and I think it's very exciting. Like, okay, now we have the Corona thing in Europe, so most of the games, Bundesliga, Serie A, Belgian league, all of these, they don't really play. I'm not sure about Premier League, but we don't have that many Premier League cards at the moment. But yeah, so it's I think that's kind of cool in a way also, that it's like you see like, oh, now the Corona thing is happening. So just because the cards are connected to the physical world, how players perform, that means it's like it's kind of cool in a way. It's like, wow, the cards are almost like alive. Like, so so it's like if something crazy happens in the physical world, your cards may be affected. Now, some people may see it as a negative. I think it's kind of cool in a way. It makes it a little bit more engaging in a way, and I kind of love that. I love like so this SO5 fantasy game is amazing. So it's amazing. It's super fun. Like when you pick like five players in a to play, and like see how they performed, and like look at the numbers and see like what kind of player is performing the best, and what player that doesn't really get to play, what player gets to play, is really good. And I think it's really amazing because like one thing that's really amazing is like the graphics. Like it really looks good. Like the photos are amazing, the graphics is amazing, the UI is amazing. It's even hard almost to struggle to see like how you really can improve this game. I like it has like a basic level feel to it, which I kind of love. Like it doesn't have any weird loot boxes or something like that, and I love that. Like you see instantly what you get, and it's fun to play around with, even though it's very basic in some ways. Like, it's not super over complicated. It's very fun also how you're learning about different teams. Like, you're learning so much stuff that you did not know before, and that's kind of cool. And it also makes you consider price and what makes something have value and why doesn't something else have value. It's just really, really cool. So my strategy: buy fresh fish and like try to buy multiple fresh fish, like same person, because like if you own exponentially a lot in one player, then it's almost like you can kind of decide what kind of value that player should have in a way, because there's just not that many other people that have these cards, so they don't really know like what kind of value this player have. Like, they're looking at what other people maybe sell it for, you know. It's also really interesting for me personally to see that some people are just trying to sell it for like a couple of dollars more. For me, that wouldn't be worth it. It's like it has to be multiple X more than what I pay for, just because it's already scarce, you know. So it doesn't really make any sense to just try to make a couple of dollars here and there. And it also, I think it also looks very professional. It's like if you try to uphold the value of a player, it's really cool, to be honest. I think it's really cool. Like, it looks like super cool when a player seems to be high valued and that other people are valuing a player. I think that's like, yeah, it's really, really amazing. So I think this game has a lot of potential and limitless growth. Basically, it's we're playing in the virtual world, and there's so much unexplored potential. And we know that this industry is a multiple billion dollars of industry just by looking at FIFA Ultimate Team. And if you look at FIFA Ultimate Team and like the competitors, they're just horrible. Like, they're way worse. They're not as fun. They have less graphics. They're not as cool. Like, it feels very, very exclusive to use this product, and I love that. So yeah, that's what I wanted to talk a little bit about. It's also kind of funny. I'm not sure what kind of other industries this would work in, because you need something that a lot of people are doing and on a weekly basis. And football is kind of like good for that niche, but there's not that many other niches that are like super good for it. I haven't really found any in my head, but maybe there are some. But this like has scale. Like, there's so many players involved, and it's such a big industry, and people love it. Have super many fans. So I see the core market. I see the potential for growth, and you can already see now the value that people love to value cards. They love to trade and sell and like speculate and like play this fantasy football game. And it's nice that it doesn't feel like a nonsense product. It feels very, very professional. And Loom Network works amazing, to be honest. That's what I want to talk a little bit about in this video. Have a great day, DTube and Steam Blockchain. Bye bye.